Hello and welcome to the Promise Daily. My name is Jamie Eslinger, and this is the very, very first podcast dedicated to your goals, promises, and my favorite word, abundance. My goal is to help you stay inspired, motivated, and keep your promises in both business and in life. In this episode, we will be exploring the abundance of love and relationships, along with joy, with my dear friend, Amy Leigh Mercree. Welcome, Amy.
Hi, Jamie. Thanks. It's great to be here.
Let me first say thank you for helping me keep my promise to myself, which was to start this podcast series.
Awesome. Yeah. I'm excited to be a part of it.
I'm so glad you're here. So let's start off with the first question, which is, so as you know, my theme this year is to explore abundance. And I'm doing that through lots of different ways. And certainly love and relationships have a ton of abundance that can be associated with, that area of our life. So what does abundance mean to you?
To me, abundance means everything that you can be grateful for. So that could be, obviously, material abundance is what we think of when we talk about that in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
But also emotional abundance, abundance of connections, abundance of warm weather, if that's what you like, or if you like snow, abundance of snow, abundance of great experiences. Anything that you can say, wow, I'm really grateful for this in my life, you're abundant. That's how I think of it.
Yeah, I love that. I love it. It's funny. So one of my big projects this year is asking people about what abundance means. And a lot of people see it as a word with a negative connotation. What do you think about that? Why are we in a place where people assume or think that abundance is potentially negative?
I think that's really too bad because it's actually so positive, and thinking of it negatively and being in a space like that, it's not doing yourself any favors, really, either, as far as bringing it in, and experiencing it.
Mm-hmm.
I think people struggle a lot, with financial issues and things like that. It's a major theme in our society, survival.
Mm-hmm.
I think to transcend that, we have to reframe it and really, like I said, think of it as how much we have. You and I happen to be born in a country, in a society where we have what seems like unlimited abundance to some people in other areas of the planet.
Yeah, good point.
We need to look at that and then look at all of our other abundance. Wow, we have, amazing parks to walk in. We have great friends. We have great family. We have great relationships. We have, food to eat that's healthy for us. We have great outdoor areas we can go run or dance or whatever we're into. If we can look at all the good things and reframe that, we can get rid of that negative connotation, which is a shame.
Yeah. So I love what you just said. Oh, I'm sorry. I talked over you. Say that again.
Oh, I was just going to say, because we're all actually very abundant.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I love what you said about letting it in and reframing the situation.
Yeah.
So could you give maybe a helpful tip on how to do a reframe?
Sure. I'll give you one of my tips when, years back when I was younger and struggling financially and things like that. But I knew that I wanted to keep my view really positive, and I wanted to focus on how abundant I am. And even then, how abundant I was. And so what I would do was every night before bed, if I was feeling anything but 110% abundant, I would write down at least 30 things that I'm grateful for. And sometimes I might fall asleep on like number 27 or something. But, and different things, not that there wouldn't be repeats, but, really honestly being diligent and committed to that, that's a way to reframe your life because it makes you look at it and go, wow, 30 things, that's a lot. You'll look
Right.
at your journal or your notebook or your piece of paper. Wow, that's a lot of things to be grateful for. That's true. I do have this, you know, great bathtub in the place I'm living, or, you know, my mom is so awesome, or whatever it might be. There's a lot to be grateful for. So that's my tip. It's all purpose. You
Yeah.
can do it if you're Donald Trump, and you can do it if you're just starting out, because it's only going to bring more goodness into your life, and it's also going to help you appreciate how much you already have.
Yeah. I love that. I also
Yeah,
love that whole idea of opening the gate, letting it in, and
exactly.
the reframe, really just changing your mental mindset allows you to let more in.
It does, and there's mental discipline we can exert on ourselves instead of, you know, going off on a little mind trip about, oh, I wish that, you know, I had this or that or a different job. We can go, wait a minute, let's reframe that. There's this many good things about this job, and try to look at it positively. And then also feeling empowered in our lives to say, wow, there are things I might not like. Here are the action steps that I'll take and commit to
Mm-hmm.
change that. And that's a good place where you can come in, where Jamie's Promise Daily comes in, because she'll keep you committed to your action steps. She'll keep you committed to staying the course with those goals, because sometimes that can be a challenge. But
Mm-hmm.
the truth is, if we appreciate what we have and feel empowered, we can change our life if we need to. Otherwise, we can say, wow, it's awesome. Look how lucky I am.
Yeah, love that. Look how lucky I am. So I have to give you a little insight into my life here. This being my first podcast, I forgot to exit out of my email program, and it's like doing all these funny dings in the background. So I'm just closing out of that now. Oh,
No difficulties. We all
yay,
have.
difficulties. So hopefully that will go away. Um, all right, let's go from abundance to joy.
Yeah.
I get abundance, and I love how you framed it and reframed it for everyone. But let's talk about joy. What's the difference between abundance and joy? Or what does joy mean?
To me, joy is like my life's mission, really. And, you know, I have a dating book and I talk about different things, but the real focus for me is, let's all focus on joy. Let's live joy, let's spread joy, and
Mm-hmm.
let's share joy. So to me, joy is twofold. It's one, an emotion, but two, it's an energy. I
Mm-hmm.
believe it to be the highest vibratory frequency that we know of in our universe. So we have this super high vibe energy combined with a feeling that we can feel. By
Mm-hmm.
bringing those things together, we have endless possibilities.
Mm-hmm. I love
So,
that. So let me interrupt you for just a second because
sure.
I'm so into energy work and I've been studying it and I really love what it is, and I get it on a real visceral level. But for people who haven't studied
Sure.
it, who maybe don't know what you mean when you talk about vibrations, could you give us a sense of, especially like what's high and what's low?
Sure. I think everybody has a different way they frame these things. I think of it as, with the energy of joy or the emotion of joy, the particles of energy and matter, to a certain degree, but especially energy, vibrate as quickly as possible,
Mm-hmm.
super fast. Those are subatomic particles, you know, little energy particles, things like that. They vibrate super fast, and they have a quality or a flavor of joy to them from that. And my personal belief and what I've seen for people is, when we take that emotion and energy of joy and we apply it to something, whether it's our bodies or our lives, we raise the vibration of that, we uplift it essentially. And it's an
Mm-hmm.
empowered thing to be able to consciously do something to uplift our life, uplift a situation, uplift our body. And that's through the choice of experiencing and focusing on joy.
Mm-hmm.
Does that answer your question?
It does, and I love the subatomic particle piece there because that was a good way for me to think about it. I
Yeah.
also so I sort of look at that scale of if joy is at the top,
Mhm.
then what's at the bottom?
Depression, grief, sadness, anger,
Yeah,
um, fear, things like that. And then up top, you've got joy and you have love up there too, and, bliss and things like that.
yeah,
So you can see why, like, as humans, we find that more pleasant anyway. So you can see
right,
why you might focus on that,
right.
and then with that whole aspect of it being more pleasant, there's a whole different cacophony of brain and body chemicals that tell us how to feel, that get
Mm-hmm.
released to make us feel good, essentially.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
That too is part of uplifting our lives and our body. We take the reins on that as much as we can and program our body to feel good, to experience pleasure, to feel joyful
yeah,
and happy,
yeah.
which is nice.
Yeah, so then if you program yourself for joy and you spend more time in living in joy, and where I come from, my coming off my last year I made a promise to love more and fear less. So
Yeah,
that's like, loving on one end of the
yeah,
scale, fearing on the other, trying to live above the neutral line into the
yeah.
love and the joy area. Then don't we just attract more abundance to our life?
We do, and that's to me. That's what I've learned from my medicine teacher back in the day. Was that's natural law. What we
Mm-hmm.
put out, we receive back threefold or more. So if we're
Mm-hmm.
putting out joy, we're sharing joy, we're choosing joy, we're bringing it back in, and that includes abundance,
I love it.
love, and everything.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I love it. So
Yeah,
let's get into love because you have a book about dating and
yeah.
relationships, and you actually have an upcoming workshop. Do you want to first? Let's talk about that. Tell us about your workshop that's coming up.
I am teaching June 9th at Omega Institute for a 5-day workshop called Spiritual Romance: Reawakening the Sacred in Your Love Life.
Awesome.
Yeah, and I'm really excited. I mean, Omega is just an incredible place to begin with, and
Yeah, it is.
it's really awesome. And I mean, just for me, I'm just excited to go spend a week there, basically, too. But I'm also excited to share with the participants that idea of spiritualizing romance in a totally non-religious way, and not in a stuffy way either,
Right.
but in a way that feels resonant with your heart and your soul, and how you can infuse your love life, whether you're single or coupled, with that essence, and find out what that is for you, and then take home tools to keep doing that. So
Yeah.
so that you feel deep fulfillment from your love life.
Yeah.
And again, whether you're single or coupled.
Great.
Mm-hmm.
So let's dive into that word spiritual for a second. Because I know your work really well, and I know that sometimes the word spiritual doesn't really describe what you do,
Right.
or what people think of. So let's dive into that for a second. When you talk about the Spiritual Girls Guide or your spiritual love and relationship workshops, like what does that mean?
That means your spirit in a secular context, but in a context of your soul, your heart, the fact that you're a treasure, and so is your spirit, and you long to feel known and fulfilled on all levels, body, mind, spirit.
Mm-hmm.
That's where I'm coming from with that. And in my book, we even use that word sacred. Again,
Mm-hmm.
we take the religious context out and we say spiritual dating is dating as if all people are sacred.
Mm-hmm.
It begins with yourself.
Mm-hmm.
You integrate that into who you are, and then you date from that space. And And really, sacred is just another way of saying like special or worthy of respect and kindness.
Mm-hmm.
It's about self-esteem, it's about soul, it's about heart, it's
Mm-hmm.
about the whole package of your holistic being.
I love that. And, you
Mhm.
know, I equate it to self-love in
Yeah,
a lot of ways. So
exactly.
my very first year of my promise, the Promise 365 blog that I wrote, I made a promise not to shop for clothes or shoes and instead invest those resources into my head, heart, body, and soul. And it ended up being a very sacred journey that I went down because once I thought the shopping was going to be hard,
Mhm.
and the first 30 days it was hard, but you get into a pattern, and I got over it really quickly. And then like February came around, and I was like, okay, now I have to do the work, and the work was taking care of my body, taking care of my health, taking care of my head, heart, body, and soul. And what it ended up being was a journey of self-love. And
For
I
sure.
didn't realize that's what I was signing up for. I thought I was going on a no shopping journey, but it really ended up being a journey of self love, and that is sacred. And it's all of those things you were just describing. And so let's get into that a little bit more. If you're a woman and you're dating, and you're going to come from a spiritual, sacred, self love place, what does that mean?
That means really making every decision based upon that. So choosing to accept a date, based upon that. Does this align with your sacredness? Yes, it does. And then does this person treat you with respect and kindness? Do they see you as sacred, basically? Do
Mm-hmm.
you see them as sacred?
Mm-hmm.
All those things are in place. You see yourself as sacred. You see your dates as sacred, and your date or dates see you as sacred. Then you're spiritually dating. That's really the crux of it. But if you kind of give it some thought, you can imagine how that would outpicture throughout your reality.
Mm-hmm.
Through the dates you accept, the people you keep going out with, your choices as far as sexual intimacy would go, everything.
Yeah.
So
It's like a
it
filter, right?
yeah, it is. It's like a level of consciousness and a level of loving yourself,
Right.
putting caring and that love toward yourself that ultimately you would want to receive back also from a partner and give to a partner. So
Mm-hmm.
you're in that space, you're sharing that also with a partner, and they're sharing that with you, and that's a healthy relationship right there.
Yeah, I like that because what you're saying is it's not just, oh, it's all about me. Like this is a filter and you have to fit into my, scenario here. The piece has to fit the puzzle for this to work. It's really the
Right.
give and take. It's like I'm
It's,
sacred and you're sacred. Yeah, so it's really a give and take. It's on both sides.
It really is. Yeah. And it's being in that space and then also having a dating partner or a relationship partner who's also in that space.
Yeah.
That's a level of conscious relating too,
Mhm.
you know?
Mm-hmm. And I'm
And
sure that this is, so pertinent to dating, but this has to spill over into the other areas of your life as well.
it can inform your whole life. If you
Mm-hmm.
make every decision, every thought, if you can, every action, every choice from a space of I am sacred,
Mm-hmm.
your life going to be nice. It's going to be positive. You're going to only do things that are good for you. Like you're coming from I am sacred and you go to a party and you know that you can't eat chocolate. It'll keep you up all night and it doesn't
Mm-hmm.
feel good in your body. Someone's offering you chocolate and maybe in the past you would just, eat a little bit so they'd stop doing it. When you're coming from the space of I am sacred and you're valuing yourself that much, caring for yourself that deeply, you very kindly say, I really can't eat that. I really appreciate the offer and it looks delicious. I'll really enjoy watching you eat it.
Mm-hmm. Instead of
You,
coming from a place of guilt
Yeah,
or shame or, you know, a lower vibration, really.
exactly. It's just, it's a conscious choice,
Yeah.
and it can affect, yeah, your entire life.
Yeah. I love
Yep.
it. So,
Yes.
could you give us an example from your book or a real world example of even a client? You don't have to say names, of course, but, you know, how this is played out in real people's lives.
Sure. Let's see. I have an example in the book of one woman who was a client who had a very, very close knit, gigantic, extended family. So, she worked, and then every weekend, everything was 100% with the family. She
Mm-hmm.
didn't have time for herself. She had friends she didn't get to see, all kinds of stuff. And she decided to bring that sacredness to her life. And one of the things she wanted was to have more social time with her friends, but also to meet a romantic partner.
Mm-hmm.
She wasn't really, it wasn't happening for her at work. It wasn't that kind of a workplace.
Mm-hmm.
She needed some of her weekends to do that, and she wasn't going to meet it if she was with her family every second. So she made a commitment to herself and created a structure, like set some parameters, and took like this is the amount of time she was going to choose to devote to these family functions, because there was just family functions all day and all night, all weekend.
Wow.
She decided what to do with that, and then she freed up time for herself, which was nice. First, she honored her sacredness by like just spending alone time that she needed, seeing her friends, and then she came to the point where she had really wanted for many years to learn guitar. So she went and took guitar lessons, and through that process, she was very good at it, and B, she was like sort of eclipsing her beginner's class.
Mm-hmm.
Then her and the instructor ended up dating. Like they had romantic sparks, and
Yeah.
it was kind of perfect because she was able to then go to a higher level class,
Uh-huh.
and she could date him because he wasn't supposed to date the students. So, I mean, that's a real world example where she decided she was sacred. She had to set those parameters.
Yeah.
The majority of the time it's with people who mean well. Nobody's really out to get you or something in those kind of situations. But she did that, and then she ended up creating the results that she desired.
Yeah.
Another really important real world example that's more general is we see it all the time. I see it constantly. Women who end up dating and being intimate with people who don't see them as sacred, who don't see them well.
Like the bad boy image
Or just, the woman who meets someone in high school, and he's, a lackadaisical type of guy or whatever, and doesn't really treat her with a lot of respect. And then she ends up marrying him.
Mm-hmm.
And then you see those same people married, 20 years later. Nothing's changed.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. The woman is unhappy. The guy probably is, but we don't know what he's thinking.
We don't know, right?
We're not sure what's going on, but
yeah,
and that's another thing. And when we are physically intimate with somebody, we are exchanging energy.
mm-hmm.
So that's where the sacredness really comes into play.
Mm-hmm.
We have to see ourselves as sacred and make decisions from that place. We must see our potential romantic partner as sacred, and they have to see us as sacred.
Mm-hmm.
Especially as women with the physical anatomy of the way things go, we're really taking in the other person's energy.
Wow. So
there's a lot to be conscious about with that.
So you mean like physical energy, taking it on.
Energy, we're taking it into our physical body.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't have a joyful, sacred vibration, then we end up having to, process that or try to work through that.
Mm-hmm.
Even when we just had an experience, my husband and I, in the last week where we spent time around people who were kind of in a negative place, like in their marriage. And we got home, and later that day, we were like fighting about nothing. And we were like, are we just like playing this vibe out? Because
fascinating.
Sometimes when you're around energy, if you're around someone who's a downer, then you feel down.
Yeah.
Take that to the next level, putting that, into your physical body and mixing those energies. It's so crucial to be conscious about that.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Yeah, that's a lot to think about.
Graphic, but it's true.
Yeah. Well, it reminds me of like, when your house is messy or when things are out of order, it really affects how you feel in the space. And then when you clean it up,
mm-hmm.
you feel better. And so that's just another form of energy. And so I get it. Like it applies to both scenarios.
Yeah, it really does.
Yeah. Awesome. So if people come to your workshop at Omega, will they learn more about this?
Oh boy, they'll learn a lot about this. They'll learn all about it and much more, and then how it applies directly to their lives and how they can better their lives with all these kinds of concepts and more.
Oh, I love it. And Omega is such an awesome place.
Awesome.
What a tranquil, beautiful, natural set. It's just so
great
cool.
Food, they have like the whole spa thing. They have all kinds of things at night with music and meditation. There's yoga. You can swim. It's in June, so you can swim in that lake.
Oh yeah, the lake's beautiful.
Oh, it's really nice. Yeah.
Awesome. So what's the website again for people to sign up?
If they're interested. My site, spiritualgirlguide.com. Awesome. There's a box on there, a little link box, or they can go to the Omega Institute website, and I think that's eomega.org or .com, one of the two.
Okay.
And it's there too. They can also find it on my Facebook page, Amy Leigh Mercree on Facebook, or Spiritual Girls Guide to Dating on Facebook. It's up there. And it's on my Twitter, at Amy Leigh Mercree on Twitter.
Awesome.
So it's all over the place.
You know what? I'll include all those links at the end of the podcast too.
That'd be great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay. So in the time we have left, let's talk about water and the ocean.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
You were, so quick background how this conversation came about. I am terrified of the ocean. I'm actually much better than I used to be, but terrified of swimming in particular in the ocean. And then last year, as part of my promise to be Love More Fearless, we went to the Bahamas and we swam with sharks. I almost cannot say that because I almost did not jump into the water. I didn't jump into the water until I saw this tiny little, I think he was like 7 years old, boy jump into the water. I was like, oh, okay, like this is ridiculous. I'm the last one standing on the boat, and even this little kid's jumping in.
Yeah.
So I did it, and I was pretty much terrified the whole time.
Were you?
Yeah, I was. It was just like, they were so close, and it was just my edge. It was totally living on my edge. But then when what's that?
You did it. Amazing and awesome that you did it. It's wonderful.
So glad I did it. I have a much greater appreciation for the ocean and what lives in it. The Bahamas was just awesome because you could see what's in the water, which is a big deal to me. But when I got back from that trip, I was talking to you, and you brought something up which is fascinating to me, and the whole idea that the ocean really kind of represents our femininity. And am I getting that right? Kind of, yeah. And motherhood.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and our emotion too.
Uh-huh.
I mean, just our entire emotional realm, and even our subconscious.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and so it's been something I've really been working on, because I was like, okay, what's out of whack here if I'm afraid of this?
Yeah.
So, and you were very, very helpful in that. And so I want to talk a little bit more about what you do with your water work and your adventure travel.
Great. I have an adventure travel business, Love Sea Vacations, and it's at loveseavacations.com. And The mission of that is basically adventures for people who love the sea, but also bringing consciousness to the ocean. I'm really passionate about marine ecology and things like that, and a lot of that stems from my time in the water, which is with sharks and humpback whales and dolphins of all different species. I'm kind of a water person.
Yeah.
And I'm an emotional person. Maybe that's part of why I'm comfortable in that, you know. But there's just so many amazing animals and even plants in the ocean as well. But really amazing animals, especially cetaceans, dolphins, and whales. And that's just a little side part of my life's goal is to be of service to those beings and to help all of us bring more and more awareness and consciousness to how we treat the oceans and by extension how we treat the planet.
Mm-hmm.
So
and
that's
really, just to interrupt there, I love what you said, how we treat the oceans, how we treat the planet, but doesn't that also come back to us, how we treat ourselves?
it really does, because it's our lifeblood, you know.
Mm-hmm.
This is our home, this is where we live, and if we don't treat it as sacred, that isn't really honoring us and our other people and all the animals and plants and life forms on the earth. So that's kind of the space I come from with it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
that's great. I feel like the part of so we're living on the beach this winter.
I
It's
know.
on the South Shore of Boston, and we've had probably the worst winter in like decades for
Yeah.
storms. So we've seen this incredible action from the ocean. And
Yeah.
one of the things it's taught me is this whole, living with change, this whole idea that every day is different, and the landscape and the birds and the rocks and I mean, every day it's different. It's such it's alive. It is so alive.
It is. And
And
there's a energy to it, and there's a life force to it, just like everything else. When we tap into that, we really feel the beauty of it.
Mm-hmm. So for people who maybe can't, make it on a love sea adventure, or, just for them to get a little bit more in touch with the ocean, do you have any recommendations if they can't go on one of your trips?
If they can get to the ocean, that's a great way to do it, obviously. But I think you can also, one way I love to recommend is sitting with a seashell, especially if it's one you've connected. And just doing a little meditation, closing your eyes and going within and connecting through the seashell just to the ocean, to the sea and its vastness.
Like one of the conch shells that you can put up to your ear and hear the like that sort of thing, or just any sort of
Just any little seashell, and just I don't have one on my desk right now, otherwise I'd show you. But yeah, just any little seashell, and just hold it, and you can even bring it to your heart. Just be with that, and let that just connection with the ocean mirror back to your emotional nature. Just let that kind of move back and forth, and also, as you said, Jamie, with your feminine nature, because there is the feminine and the maternal aspect to the ocean, and also all the emotion. I mean, think about, you have the sun-drenched tops of the ocean with colorful fish, and it's very joyful. And then you have the deepest trenches that are pitch black, total unknown, that might represent some of our shadow parts, So just connect with that and see where that goes for you.
Yeah, so I like sitting on the sand. What does that mean? I like looking at the ocean.
Yeah, that means that you're in a between place. So you're between water and earth, and water and air. So you're comfortable there. And you like to view, it might mean you like to view your emotion and subconscious from a respectful and safe distance and observe it and get the gifts from it that way. It's a very it's like a very responsible and like methodical way to do it. It's
Oh
great.
my God. That is so me. When you're saying that, I'm like, yeah, that's me. And, preferably with a book in my
Yeah,
hand,
yeah,
sunny,
just
warm
like
day, no wind. Yeah.
yeah, just being relaxed, being comfortable, and sitting near your own emotional sea, which is endless,
Ah,
which
I
can
love
be
it.
daunting.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it can. And so while we're on this topic, what about somebody who loves being in the water? What
Well,
is
that's me.
That's you, yeah.
It's interesting because I've looked at different sides of it, and I've thought, it's a fluidity with emotion and things like that. And I've really noticed with myself lately, I'm just like a really emotional person, and
Mm.
I'm also very mental. I happen to, I'm a writer and whatnot, so
Mm-hmm.
I've got a lot of mental stuff. But I'm an emotional person. I'm half Greek. I've got a Greek dad. We get together, and it's good. It's like happy emotion, but we're singing, we're just stabbing each other in the sides. We're just, one big ball of emotion. And that mirrors that back for me and makes me go, wow, I guess I'm pretty emotional.
Oh,
I think for me, that's what it means.
I love it. I love it.
I might not love doing it, but I'm comfortable diving into my
Mm-hmm.
subconscious and unconscious when it needs to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I like it if it's pleasant, just like anybody else. But
Mm-hmm.
I'm willing to do that. And on the contrary, for me, high altitude and desert and things like that do not resonate. And that's a very
Fascinating.
mental kind of, cerebral, mental looking at things with like analytical clarity and crispness. That's a challenge for me. So I think it depends on who we are.
Yeah, I love it. And as you were saying that, I'm like, yeah, I can be in both worlds, but
Hmm.
not for very long.
Yeah.
So I am kind of like in the middle. See, this
Yeah.
is fascinating. I love this insight. This is really wonderful.
Yeah. I
Okay.
lived in
Oh,
the Rocky Mountains for a couple years,
that's right,
and
you did.
it was powerful actually, abundance wise too, because the Rockies have a really abundant, huge. I mean, they're just huge, really vibrant energy to them. It was a challenge for me though.
Yeah,
I'm more of a gentle kind of a person, so it's just a nice, soft seaside is a lot more resonant.
I love it. Such a good frame to kind of think about yourself and your energy and your emotions. It's great.
For sure.
Well, I just want to I want to get like your best tips here as we close out. And the Promise Daily is all about making a commitment and sticking to your promise and really I love what you're saying about going along the lines of being sacred and seeing yourself as sacred.
Yeah.
So the Promise Daily is all about a daily commitment. And I like to provide a little inspiration and a kick in the pants, to keep people on track. So
Yes.
what would be your best tips for, staying on track? Any sort of good tip around, really getting what you want out of your relationship and your life?
Right. I guess I have two to continue the sacredness vein of things. Every day, stating 3 times is kind of nice to really get it through your brain. Saying aloud, "I am sacred,"
Mm.
every day, and maybe posting it in your environment, like putting it next to your bed or on your bathroom mirror or whatever. Saying it at least 3 times a day, and
So
then
locking yourself in the bathroom and saying it so nobody thinks you're crazy.
yeah. If you don't live alone, or whoever
Okay.
think it's silly, definitely locking yourself in the bathroom. But saying "I'm sacred" at least 3 times a day, and then making each choice from that space. You know,
Hmm.
you're worthy of respect and kindness. You're special. You're a treasure of true beauty. Making your life choices from that space what would they be like? What would each action be like? What would your words be like?
Mm-hmm. I love that.
That's one, and I do have another one too.
Yeah.
And that relates to joy and living your life as if your compass, in your heart, your internal compass points to joy. So same kind of thing, making each choice from a space of, does that elicit feelings of joy in me?
Mm-hmm.
Do I feel joy with that?
I love that. I think together it's a really good formula. And for some people who maybe aren't at the place where they're like, okay, I'm sacred, they could at least come from the place of, does this bring me joy?
Yeah, starting with joy.
Yeah.
And same thing, affirming that to yourself, I am joy. I'm made of joy. I am joyful. My compass points towards joy all the time. Bringing that into your awareness. I think when we say things to ourselves, our cellular structure listens. When we read things in our environment, we can't help but read it. If there's print in your environment, you read it.
Mm-hmm.
Read things in our environment, we keep internalizing that and programming ourselves to that vibration or that consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
So those are my tips.
I love it. And you can't avoid it. If you put it in your environment, you can't avoid, you can't forget.
You can't forget. If it says I am sacred next to your bed, you're going to read it before bed. Even if you forget to say it, you'll read it.
Yeah. Or on your computer screen, or
that's true. That's
right with lipstick on your bathroom mirror. I mean, anywhere, right?
Yes.
Love it. Love it. Well, you, my dear, are sacred, and you bring me so much joy.
Hey, likewise.
This was so fun. Thank you for being the first podcast for the Promise Daily.
I'm excited to hear the ones that follow.
Yeah, well, I'm excited to see this one come together. Now we got to put it together. You're awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.